Hey everyone, this is Dawn Grant. I recently had COVID and I learned a lot about myself and a lot about COVID and a lot about how to get through it the best you can. And I wanted to share that with you all because, I'm a mental trainer and I teach and I'm a hypnotist. So I, thoroughly understand the mind. And I was able to recognize how much my mind and my thoughts were playing into my health and my healing, sometimes in a negative way and other times in a positive way. I came out of it really wanting to help people to get through COVID easier or better, or in a way that they could possibly even survive. Now, I'm not a doctor. I gotta have a disclaimer here. I can't guarantee that what I'm going to tell you or what I'm going to offer you is going to help you. But I got sick, and for 2 days, I thought it was just a head cold. I thought it was a pretty severe head cold. I had no idea that it was COVID. I had chills and back pain kind of in my upper back. I had a headache and I wanted to sleep a lot. And at that time, I didn't think it was COVID. I thought maybe I just had slept funny and my muscles were sore, and that maybe I had a cold and I had some congestion. And so there was about 2 days that I mostly slept. Now I went ahead and was taking my vitamins and drinking fluids and trying to. I have a healthy shake that has a ton of vitamins in it. I was drinking that every day, and so I was mostly sleeping and chills, hot off and on. My temperature didn't get above 101.8, but also fluctuated a lot. Like one day it was 101, and later in the day it was 98, and then the next day it might have been 99, and then the next day it was like 101 again. So it really fluctuated. But after those first few days, I actually thought I was better. But I also, again, I think this has a lot to do with being a mental trainer and understanding the mind. And I didn't really tell very many people. Again, I didn't think it was COVID, but as soon as I started getting suspicious, it was just like it took all my energy just to heal. And I say that because I realized I didn't want a bunch of, are you going to be okay? And oh my gosh. And I didn't want people worried. I didn't want people freaking out. I didn't want people putting that on me. Now, I've not necessarily ever noticed this before when I've been sick, but there was some part of me that knew I just need to focus on myself. And there are even certain family members that I didn't tell because I knew that they would go straight to, oh my gosh, are you going to be all right? And that felt like they were projecting on me like negativity. It felt like if they were to do that, if anybody was to do that, even on social media, I felt like that it would put a kind of a doomy feeling on it. A lot of those comments to me aren't uplifting. They're kind of assuming that you're doing horribly or you're not doing well. So without really realizing it wasn't totally deliberate. I didn't really tell very many people. So then I started telling people in my family and such about 4 days into it. And but I thought I was out of the woods, and what started happening then is the body aches shifted. They were all over my back and my hips. Some of them felt muscular and some of them felt like they were in my joints. My jaw was sore. One side of my head at one point, I thought I was going to get an ear infection. And I had a headache, but I also had pressure behind my eyes. Again, the temperature kept doing the same thing. I had no energy. It didn't feel at that point like I needed to sleep all day. It just felt like I didn't really want to do anything else. I didn't really want to think much, and I'd think a lot on a normal basis. So there was a distinct difference in not really wanting to think about things, not wanting to analyze. Couldn't really process information in the same way. And I would nap probably like 3 times a day for about an hour each time, and then I started having sleeping problems, which I didn't realize that was a thing with COVID, but I researched it, and there's this COVID insomnia thing that can happen. So for several nights, I just tossed and turned all night. It felt like, the achy body wasn't helping. I had achy joints. I also had very sensitive skin, like just to the touch, my skin was sensitive. My hearing was sensitive. I was like hypersensitive to noise. There were times where I'd go the whole day and just be in quiet, and even turning on the TV sounded loud. The walking to the restroom or walking to another side of the house, it was tiresome, but not in the point like I thought it would be. I didn't feel like I just ran around the block kind of tired. I just felt like I just didn't want to do anything. I had lethargy. And so, but when the sleeplessness started happening, I also had really dry skin. My skin was really dry, and my throat was really dry, especially in the middle of the night, even though I was drinking what I thought was a lot. I was drinking, well, not a lot, but a reasonable amount. I was drinking about 40 ounces of water a day, and also, pretty large, like 20 ounces of a healthy smoothie with vitamins in it. So after a few nights of not being able to sleep, I decided to take some melatonin that's been floating around the house. And I'm, in general, really sensitive anyways. I'm sensitive to foods and medicines and such. I was not taking Tylenol or anything because I was concerned that I would contribute to the symptoms. Like, I didn't want more hypersensitivity. I didn't want more issues, and I was concerned with the congestion and the kind of lethargy of inflammation. My body tends to get swollen when I eat certain foods with preservatives or chemicals or a lot of salt, because that can cause you to swell up. Well, that happens to me all the time. So I didn't want that to happen on top of what was already happening. And by then I knew I had COVID. And my sense of smell was gone. My sense of taste was just different. And my appetite was different. Some of the foods I typically love, like eggs in the morning, sounded disgusting to me. Certain foods tasted horrible. I had stone ground oats with berries on it one day, and the oats tasted like they were full of salt and butter, and they didn't have that. But the berries tasted amazing. So there's something interesting there. Like sweet foods tasted really great. My sense of smell was gone, and anyways, I thought I would try the melatonin, even though I was hesitant to put anything in my body that might have a reaction to. And I broke up the little tiny pills into quarter sizes, a little quarter of a pill, and I took one, and I was able to go to sleep. And about 4 hours later, I woke up and I tossed and turned again. So I took another little quarter of the pill and was able to go back to sleep. And I did that throughout the night. And I had some weird dreams, but nothing that I didn't really think anything of it. So I was excited, but the next night to be able to get some sleep at nighttime with the melatonin. And I had some really cuckoo dreams, real weird dreams, that kind that you're half awake and half asleep, and you kind of want to get out of it, but you can't, and just kind of spooky. And then the next day was when the breathing issues started happening. I didn't know that was something that tends to happen somewhere around 6 or 8 or 10 days. I had no idea. I had a lot of time to do research, so I learned a lot about COVID. I had no idea that it attacks your neurological system. I feel like in media and in conversations you hear so much about the breathing issues that I didn't realize that it was, attacked your neurological. I didn't realize that it affected your heart. I already have palpitations at times just randomly in my life, and so those were definitely increased. My heart rate was increased just rapid at times. But I also started feeling what just felt like weight on my chest. It's hard to explain. It's not what I expected there either. There was just a feeling of restriction, and it was right here. And so the times that my heart would be acting up at the same time, there was what felt like anxiety. If any of you have ever had anxiety, it kind of can occur right here between your heart racing and this constriction feeling, and your breathing is short or rapid, but it's not exactly like anxiety. So there's I didn't know how to explain it, but it was there. And if I went across the house, if I went to the kitchen, went to the bathroom, I wasn't like some people where I was just totally out of breath and had to sit down. It just was there, and I could tell that I wasn't breathing like I normally would. If I stood up to brush my teeth, my muscles would burn, and I was told that was related to lack of oxygen. So somehow I just knew, I knew not to stand too long. I knew not to walk for very far. Just leaning over, I knew I couldn't really lean over to pick something up. And food started feeling like it was pushing up on my diaphragm. Now that might not be what it was happening, but it just felt like that. It felt like my diaphragm was pushing up, and my breathing wasn't the same. It felt constricted, as if you had a full belly and your diaphragm was pushed up. So the food, I could only eat small portions because that feeling would happen, and then it would contribute to the weird feeling in my chest and in my heart area, and the inability to really feel like I was getting a good breath of air. Around that time, it got scary. And it got scary because of everything I've heard. I wasn't really scared up until then, but to me, it's like you just don't know which statistic you're going to be. Are you going to be in the 90-something percentile that survives? Or are you going to be one of the ones that has serious issues, or are you going to die? And so I saw and felt and noticed that my mind was starting to get concerned, and fear was coming in. And the moment that I would have any negative thought, I would feel what would really be more anxiety. So on top of what felt like anxiety in my chest, if I had negative thoughts, if I had worry, if I had fear, if I considered that I may die, if I considered I may not see my kids again, if I considered, this future that I thought I was going to have may not be there, if I could, those things would make it worse. And instantaneously, there are certain things that I can talk to you about right now that I couldn't even talk about then. I couldn't share with a loved one how I was feeling like that, because of how intense it made that feeling in my chest and my heart, and it was scary. So I don't know if that's normal for COVID. I don't know if I was having some kind of reaction to the melatonin, but for nights there, I stopped taking the melatonin after I was having, it wasn't horrible dreams, but they were bad dreams and I couldn't really get out of them. So I ended up not taking them after a few nights, and sorry, one of my employees is going by. So the following nights, I didn't know if I was going to wake up in the morning. Now, that may not be based on what was really happening in my body. It might have been issues because of some insomnia. It could have been issues because of the melatonin in my body, but there was real fear, and I had to counteract it, and I counteracted it very, very deliberately. There were periods of time that it was weird. At one point, I believe in angels. I regularly, will say to somebody, oh, the angels are surrounding you, you're gonna have a safe flight, or I protect myself with angels. There's different things like that. It's kind of just a thing that I do, and I believe in faith, and I feel like faith has a lot to do with passing things over and getting them off your brain and trusting in a higher power. And there's different forms of that, and one of them for me is angels. So my boyfriend actually said to me, do you see the angels around you? And normally that is something that's positive and uplifting and feel protected and safe. But the moment he said it to me, I saw angels as if I was dying. I saw angels like they were welcoming me in the afterlife. And I couldn't snap it out of my head right away. Now, this is in the middle of the day. Like I was awake. I couldn't speak. I mean, I could, but I didn't want to, because I couldn't tell him what I was thinking and feeling, because I knew it would make this, whatever was happening in my chest, worse and constrict my breathing. So I'm a firm believer now that anxiety and stress based on fear and based on the stuff that's in our heads makes the COVID worse, and I'm concerned that it has caused people to die. The amount of constriction that's already there, and the fact and the nature of what anxiety is and what it does to your body, it's like a double whammy. And I was avoiding at all costs contributing to that feeling. I just knew I couldn't talk about things. There was a day where I couldn't talk about things that were scary or negative, because it just built it. I was doing all I could to get that stuff out of my head. At one point, it felt like, for real, not for real, like I didn't necessarily see this, but there was a sense that there, like the angel of death was hovering and waiting. Like there was just this sense of that. And there were several days where I was working on that very hard, and I was like, I want to live. I want to live. I believe in the power of our thoughts. I believe that I'm a co-creator with the divine. I believe that I actually can contribute to what happens in my life. And I was like, higher power, angels, higher self, loved ones that have passed, like whatever it is, I want to live. And I started thinking about my life and the gratitude I have for the things that I have in my life, the people that I have in my life, the love that I have, what I've accomplished, how far I've come, but also all of those things for now and in the future. Like I have a wonderful life and people that I love and that surround me with love, and lots of great ideas for my businesses and growth for them and my children, and watching them grow up. And I just started bombarding myself with these positive thoughts and gratitude and appreciation and visualizations around that, and clarity, super strong clarity. Like I want to live and I want to have a long, healthy life. I did find a hypnosis audio online that helped me with that kind of positive thinking, and I would listen to it sometimes 3 or 4 and 5 times a day. I would listen to it every time I went to sleep, and if I woke up and I had that feeling or I had the fears, I would listen to it again. It was all positive suggestions. So I got through what apparently can be some of the roughest times for people. I've learned since then that somewhere around the 8th, 9th, 10th day, some people, they think they're in the clear and then they get worse. And again, I'm a firm believer that the quality of your thoughts can either help or hinder you through these times and through this virus. And you're being bombarded with negativity, you're being bombarded with fears, big question marks, all based on conversations on social media, on the media, on TV, everywhere. And so it took me about 16 days before I got even some of my brain functioning back, where I could actually think more clearly. I'm still struggling with a few things, like I still have phlegm in my lungs. My throat swells as the day goes on. That was scary, for the first 5 days, but now I'm kind of used to it, and I just try to take it easy and not talk too much and make sure I'm eating the right foods that don't cause inflammation. and make sure I'm taking my vitamins and drinking lots of fluids. Oh, let me rewind. I did end up driving to the hospital. My boyfriend was going to drive me to the hospital this one morning, and it was right around, like I said, that 9th or 10th day, because around 4 a.m. I woke up dizzy laying down, weak in my arms, my head, I didn't feel like I could lift it up, and the breathing was worse and the heart issue was worse. And I waited about an hour. I didn't want to alert anybody in the house, and then I was concerned also that I couldn't even get across the house to even alert anybody. But ultimately, I have somebody who works in the emergency room that I care for, and I called her, and she said it was probably dehydration and that they would likely not admit me without any more severe breathing issues. So I believed her, and I was not taking Pedialyte or Gatorade or anything before that. We immediately loaded up on that stuff, and within 5 hours, I started feeling better. Now, I don't know if it was the turn or the Pedialyte or what, but and I started rotating the Motrin and Tylenol every 4 hours. So other than that, I survived it, and I want to help other people survive it. I have made a hypnosis audio based on my experience, and especially that rough time that really my mind was really messing with me. And I figure, with all my training, if it was that hard for me, it must be really hard for people that don't know how to manage their mind. So I have a really great hypnosis audio that I made for everybody out there, that anybody's interested. It focuses on your mind, your body, and your spirit, health and healing, and the fact that your body is miraculous and it can heal, and you are a miraculous being to begin with, and your cells have not only created miraculously, but can have their processes and slough off and rebuild, and your organs and all this stuff. So tons of great suggestions for a healthy mindset, for that clear decision that you want to live, the visualizations of your great life, and the gratitude for it, and the appreciation for it, and then also your visualizations of where you want to go in your life and what you appreciate. And so everything that I feel worked for me, I put into a hypnosis audio, and I hope that you take advantage of it, and that you tell any loved ones that may benefit from it. And I hope also that my sharing my experience with you maybe has eased some of your minds. The unknown is scarier than anything, and I just wanted to share my experience and offer you strength and hope, and I hope that it's done that. Let me know if you have any questions.